There are many articles in the news that when one combines them together, the careful observer is forced to come to the conclusion that the government does have remote technology that allows them to abuse people, be it microchips or any other kind of remote controlled method. It is insane to assume that this is not the case. And what is a drone? What is a remote controlled car? I mean, we can go on and on and on. It is insane to think that a government that stays 20 years ahead or so in technology of the general public does not have the ability to remotely abuse people. It's just as crazy to think that they aren't doing it right now. And when we consider the history of sexual abuse in war, the Phoenix program, all the rapes in World War II, the Vietnam, the Phoenix program, and on, okay? Rape is a part of life, fraternities, wars. I've gone over this time and time again, using chemistry to rape, using illusion. The Ku Klux Klan, right? They call themselves, in the higher levels, wizards, grand wizard, imperial wizard, grand dragon, right? To snake people. A snake is also a phallic symbol, okay? So, one thing I do that most quote-unquote conspiracy theorists don't do, because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I deal in the facts and the logical conclusion from my top martial arts perspective, $4,000 4-year challenge. I went way out of my way to prove that as well. I even went into genetics to prove my point, okay? I go out of my way and I review it with other rational, clear-headed minds who give me cogent, astute, coherent input that makes me quite aware and quite satisfied with the fact that the logical conclusion in each video that I make for the viewer is that I am right, and not that there's something wrong with me, or that I'm some kind of controlled opposition bitch, like most people on the internet, I'd venture to say, who make videos are. So mental health, right? Man, tall, heel. The Achilles heel. Again, I tell you, even if the wordplay was invalid and my formula was wrong, which is kind of a joke, right? Spelling, right? A magic spell, a vowel to L. Even if it wasn't that way, even if Masons don't deal in wordplay, even if phonetics don't exist, which obviously they do, you must extract the idea, just like in the Bible, just like in any story, true or otherwise, you must extract the morals, the truth. Not from some kind of lukewarm, Neoplatonic perspective, but the truth, right? So man, tall, heel. In a society where everything's made for the smaller person, clothes, cars, airplane seats, and so on, okay? Martial arts are for the smaller person, right? The man, tall, heel. His Achilles heel, right? How do we make him less effective than the smaller guy when he must have a more powerful brain logically to coordinate his body? And we also see studies where they say the taller person tends to be more sensitive to changes in the environment, which goes back to martial arts senses and the Narmer palate. Now, I'm not saying small people are inferior or they can't be sensitive. I'm not saying that. These are general trends, okay? Just like saying a taller person tends to have longer arms. Some of them don't, for whatever reason. Mutations, whatever reason, okay? It's kind of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? Taller creatures tend to have longer limbs. Not always. Anyway, so shrinks mental health, the LGBT community friendly system. And when one understands this, right, there's a bunch of gays and feminists and racists and eugenicists in mental health. This is established. Psychiatrists themselves have pointed this out. It's highly political. It leans left. It goes without saying it leans left. I mean, Christians were the ones they cite as making it hard for them to advance their studies and their institutions. They said people used to think that mentally ill people were possessed by demons and spirits, right? So it goes without saying it leans left. It goes without saying that people like Freud were also occultists who used to channel demons, and this is part of psychology as well. Learning the psychological moral of the story, if you will, from mythology is part of psychology as well. I've proven that definitively in my videos. If you don't think so, go to my Facebook page, Chuku Haru, because I'm having trouble addressing the comments. We'll get into that momentarily. Okay, so when you become aware that the mental health system resents you, how can it be mentally healthy for you to go there and for man to tell his heel to tell your vulnerabilities to the political opposition. And if you're going to sit there like there is no code of silence, like people don't talk, there's something wrong with you. If you think that these confidentiality agreements keep political groups and whistleblowers and other groups of people from spilling the beans to their allies for the purpose of persecuting the opposition, you're an idiot. If you think that the political abuse of psychiatry is not rampant and way out of control, you're an idiot. Okay, you're a fucking dumbass. You know, the same sources that would pretend that's the case have written papers themselves about the political abuse of psychiatry and the history of unethical, non-consensual experimentation, which was rampant in the psych wards, the prisons, and other institutions. In fact, incarceration is also a play on words. Incarcerate. Incarcerate. Sargon, Sorgon. And I've come to the conclusion that Sargon was probably a Semite, and I would have to correct one of those insignificant side details I might have made a mistake on in the past, if that is the case. It doesn't change my key points, which are continuously true and valid and accurate. And they must be considered. They're significant and important. So Popular Mechanics came out with this article proving definitively that the government is aware of these claims, which then forces even the casual observer to realize that, hey, why aren't they investigating them? So if you're gathering these facts about technology and you're not investigating the claims in your general population, yes, that is an admission of guilt. You're taking these people to the psych ward while you're investigating this technology, yes, it's an admission of guilt. Why are you gathering this stuff if it's just in their heads? Yes, it's an admission of guilt. The government basically has said, we are guilty in a way you can't do anything about. And the answer isn't for anarchists to win the day, right? So these same groups that would prefer to operate in a chaotic society without a government, without superficial steps they have to take to do their nonsense, you know, can terrorize people at will. There's over 2 million Masons and hundreds of registered secret societies in America. There are thousands of gangs. There are tons of satanic groups. Yes, they would prey on you. Yes, nothing would stop them. The government is an illusion that makes it a little bit harder for them to prey on you. But certainly we see the organized predatorial behavior through the government nonetheless. Okay, so it's kind of a trade-off, but it doesn't work in the favor of the average citizen. The answer is to bring in a monarchy based on sacred morality and martial artists who cultivate righteousness to achieve that position. And this is our last chance, and society will fail. Okay, so they, you know, part of what they've done is they've made people aware that this exists and that people are drugged and abused and played out as crazy if they don't fall in line with one of the controlled opposition groups, which can be seen as an extension of the military-industrial complex, right? Fall in line, the order, right? There's different factions of the military, okay? If you're in the armed forces and you're, you know, representing America, you're going to have to fall in line, right? And it doesn't matter if you're in the Army or the Marines, you answer to the same kind of central government and the groups behind the government, period, okay? So what we see is that when we see the water, right? Even in Morgan Hill, there has a history of the water being contaminated, and there's a potential for them to chop it up to that. But I assure you, I have 15 witnesses on record. I have 2 witnesses that tested the water, tested some of the drinks I've had, and they said, yes, there was something wrong with it. So that's been ruled out. Okay, so the drugs in the water, the psych meds, the street drugs, and so on, the different chemicals in the food. This is for the plausible deniability, and there's also biochemical related plausible deniability tactics, which include manufacturing diseases, genetically engineered diseases, which also cause side effects, which they can say, hey, that is actually the problem when it's actually the government doing it on purpose. So what we see is women are complicit as well. In wartime, when women are raped, it doesn't take a genius to see that there's a large degree of we don't respect you, right? Would you rape your own mother? Why? Because there is a mental component that I respect her and that this is wrong. Well, why is it wrong? Okay? In Europe, it's said that in some countries, incest is legal whether they do it or not. Why is it legal? Because people who are sexually immoral run the world. Sex cults run the world, and they are moral relativists at best. At best. You know, they've turned the martial art leader into the businessman. He's a brainy guy, a sapiosexual crony capitalist society, right? And you make a killing. The warrior king makes the killing, and he's supposed to be revered most, not Bill Gates, not these businessmen, not these people who abuse us and turn our politicians into prostitutes, or bigger prostitutes than they were before. So when we see these side effects I'm suffering, you know, the photophobia, the headaches, the weight loss, the chemical castration, and the sexual side effects, do you think I would sit here in the name of pussy and money, you know, as an honorable martial artist and talk about how they're chemically castrating me if it wasn't true? Okay? The more I talk about this, the more it's guaranteed that I will follow my oath. I'll tell you that, you know, of abstinence. I'll tell you that, you know, because women have been taught not to respect the martial artist, and they've been taught to value the size of the penis of a man, to instill a certain kind of hatred in every ethnic group. We hate the black guys. They were the guys who civilized the world. In popular culture, at least, they have the big penises. If we don't do something about this, they will have the best of everything. So they all get together and they sabotage the black man and anyone who rises up in the name of morality, you know, like him, because this leads you to focus on morality. And when you focus on morality, inevitably you're going to come to the conclusion that morals come from martial artists. And martial arts started in Africa. It didn't start in Europe. It didn't start in Asia. It didn't start in the Middle East, etc., etc. It didn't start in the islands. It started in Africa. So even if you were dumb enough to think the Egyptians were white, you know, the Amarteans, the Tazians, the Badarians, and all these groups were white. These have nothing to do with warrior tribes from Africa, that the leopard society isn't a pervasive idea in Africa, and the leopards aren't specifically in sub-Saharan Africa. Even if you didn't put these things together and connect them to Ra, it's still in Africa. So what does that do? It makes it so you're not so proud. What does it mean to be a European? You're in Europe. What's the difference between an albino African and a white European? Did Gaddafi walk around with a European Union symbol on his clothing, or was it an African symbol? Was he not Indo-European? So, this is African martial arts, and it came from black African people, and Nekin certainly is the first obvious display of martial arts activity. It was the Narmer palette and anything like that. These predate Beni Hassan. But Beni Hassan is given the credit, is Governor Amen Hamat, and Amen goes back to the yin-yang illusion. He's the illusion guy. He's the usurper, just like the Grand Wizard of the KKK, and I've shown the regalia with the Moon Temple symbolism. So part of their illusion that they created was the idea of the savage beast. The savage black African-American beast looking to rape white women. Why? You've controlled their reproduction. You've limited their ability to find a potential mate and a suitable helper. So even if they have sex with some black Bruhelda, you know, some big black Bertha beast on a fucking plantation, they're probably not meeting their intimacy needs, which is also what the left would have you believe, that you can meet your intimacy needs on a dog, on your hand, on some fat woman. No, the heart comes into play. It is the seat of intelligence, and we need that true romantic natural attraction to meet our intimacy needs. So the black man almost certainly came to the conclusion that it is a bad idea to rape no matter how much I want to. Obviously, they're being hunted down by the Klan. They're being whipped. They're more likely to be convicted whether they did it or not. But the Klan followed the illusion-based protocol nonetheless. So what we see in this technology, since I'm running out of time, right? They want to institutionalize, incarcerate someone like me, even though I've proven my point, because that's how you keep society safe. You know, set the stage for this guy no matter how eloquently and gallantly he proves his point, no matter how effectively, right? Think about the high rate of the lesbian abuse of their partners, right? Sexual abuse leads to more sexual abuse. They've given everyone and their mom a reason to play stupid, which is why they're playing stupid, at least from the crony capitalist perspective. Now, what does this technology do? It causes erratic behavior. They can stimulate your sexual organs, right? They can fill you with lust remotely. They can zap you remotely. They can burn your skin, cause itchingness. They have drugs that causes rashes, and certainly there must be some nanotechnology involved. I challenge you all to look into nanotechnology. I'm out of time, but yes, I know for a fact that this technology is real. I've done my research. Thank you.